Welcome to another episode of God Bless America. We've had quite a week. Couldn't be happier than to welcome our good friend, longtime flying partner, pilot, one of the more accomplished guys you'll ever meet. And that's even before we get into his medical background, Dr. Doug Tewes. Doug, welcome.
Appreciate it. Welcome, Doug.
Doug,
Thank you.
We also have Dave Slagle. We have our fearsome producer, Sam, from the land of ginger over there. Man of the computer, man of everything.
All right.
Doug, welcome.
Thank you.
Couldn't be happier to have you. So setting the context, poor old Doug agreed to come over to the house, ostensibly for a cocktail. Little did he know it was going to involve being a guest on God Bless America.
So you hijacked him.
I shanghaied
You
him.
shanghaied him.
Well, the text message wasn't exactly clear. It was just 30 minutes of.
Maybe with intent.
Sounds
That's
just
the
like
term
something.
Shanghai.
Shanghai.
All right.
Sounds just like Matt.
Well, that's my middle
Off the
name,
cuff.
Shanghai Mod.
There you go.
So, Doug, and for the record, Doug, you're a good-looking man. I don't want to go and shower with you, but he is closer to retirement than his appearance would give you than he was 10 years ago. And my point is, and where I'm leading up to, the first question, Nebraska is now the fourth fastest growing obesity population in the country as a state.
Yeah.
And to that end, all your years of being an orthopedic surgeon, I know when you came out of fellowship, you were doing certain treatments that were being performed for the benefit of the morbidly obese. How has your practice changed since you came out of fellowship to where you are now? All these years away from retirement that you still have in front of you.
But relative to the obesity issue,
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen that grown over the last 30, 40 years.
Absolutely no question about it. The reality of obesity in our country relative to orthopedics is that it is grossly affecting the number of people that are needing knee replacements and hip replacements. And so,
Talk a little more into the microphone, please. How are we
I
looking
can
on
do
the
that.
sound?
Yeah. Get the microphone a little bit closer. That'll help.
There we go.
We can
Thank
make it a
you.
little closer there.
We can edit.
Don't knock his bourbon off.
Yeah.
That will really upset me.
Okay. Little technical challenges here, but
It's all right.
we're
Move
running
this to
again.
the side so
We can
it's not
edit.
blocking your beautiful visage. Your wife's going to want to see you.
she will eventually. Yeah.
Exactly.
Um,
So we
So
set the stage.
yeah.
Since you started this obesity epidemic, you've seen a pronounced increase.
No question about it. And when you look at the baby boomers population coming into the time of life where they're going to need joint replacements, and you add that to the obesity side of things, it's just the bell shape or the curve for this is for total joints is like that. I mean, it's going up exponentially, especially in knee replacements. And there's just no question that the obesity piece of it plays a role. The other part of it, unfortunately, is in the teenage population, my sports medicine population, and it's really just sad to see the number of kids that are coming in, that are A, obese, and B, most of them are on antidepressants.
Really?
And
Wow.
so you wouldn't think about the sports medicine population being in that category of people that are obese, but in reality, that's very much what we're seeing is a group of kids who are trying to be participating in sports that are either getting obesity early on, so that by the time they hit high school and college ranks, their level of obesity is at a point where it's hard to reverse it, by that point. And so then the other piece of it is the antidepressants, and that really goes past the obesity piece. There's just a lot of kids on antidepressants, which just blows my mind.
So
Now, is that America's desire to have a pill to cure the ill? Is that a overprescribing situation by their primary care docs? Is it the parents pushing for that? What?
environmental, social.
Well, and maybe it's because they're obese. So here, this is a question, and it's actually sincere, even though it's going to come across as crass. Do you ever look at the patient and say, the reason we're doing this procedure is because you're too fat, versus being politically correct and avoiding a very unpleasant topic?
Yeah. So answer to the first question, it's all of the things that you just put out there as far as why the antidepressants. Just there is a different sort of a pressure situation on kids, and there is an availability through parents, through our medical system, through the providers to get those kinds of medications. And so it's not just a one piece of it. It's all the way across the board. In answer to your other question relative to, do you just tell people that they're fat? Yeah, you do.
Tactfully.
You do tactfully, yeah. So I can remember one lady, this wouldn't apply to the sports medicine side of things, this would be more like total joint side of it. She came in, she was probably in the 340-ish range.
Wow.
340.
Yeah,
340
pounds.
No
And
shackle.
started talking to her and told her that she was too heavy for me to do a total joint replacement on her.
Wow.
And she started crying, and I said, this isn't a personal thing. This is like if you have high blood pressure and your physician says take a pill for high blood pressure so you can avoid a stroke. I'm saying the same thing about your obesity so that we can avoid having a complication as a result of a surgical intervention, for instance. The reason she was crying wasn't because she took that personally from me. She was crying because she said, nobody has ever told me I'm fat. None of my physicians have ever told me I'm fat. That's another problem we've got going on.
So
we aren't addressing.
Was
the
she
issue.
not? Okay, let me ask you this. I'm not going to dig into the psyche of anybody, but could she not? Was she not self-aware enough to understand her position,
Sure.
her plight, but does it take acknowledgement from a medical professional to say, yes, you are obese?
Let me fill that in a little bit. She was completely aware. She wanted help, but she wasn't pushing to get it. She was waiting for somebody to say to her, okay,
You need help.
you need help.
So is there a great ending to the story with her?
Yeah, actually, in her particular situation, she is one of those that over the course of about a year and a half, she ended up losing I think she ended up losing like 120 pounds.
Oh my gosh. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So down to
220.
220.
Yeah.
From 340 to 220. Still,
Yeah.
that's a third of her weight.
Yeah.
I mean, I could give you story after story after story like that, where
Favorable
you
outcome
just
stories?
where you just have to point out the issue, and that's not for everybody. I saw a lady in clinic today that won't work with. I've tried with her, and it's just not working. But I can remember a truck driver who was 400 plus.
Oh boy.
Came back a year later. I didn't know who he was. And, after we started talking about it, I said, how'd you lose the weight? He said, well, when I'm in the truck, I got this Magnum pop jug thing
sure.
that I get refilled at Casey's or wherever it is. And I was just drinking pop. And so I just stopped drinking pop. And the weight just fell off of him.
So obviously he was drinking sugared pop.
Yeah,
Full
pop.
leaded.
Fully
Full
loaded.
lead.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
So it runs the gamut. It runs from medical professionals who are obese and not wanting to talk about it. It is people that are overly sensitive about, would I offend that individual?
Right.
Well-meaning. Everybody's well-meaning. That's not the point. But some people just need to hear it.
So Doug, I got a question for you. So you're at the point where people come see you where they do need a joint replacement of some type because something's worn out. So along the way, does our medical society focus too much? And I'm not talking about orthopedic surgeons. I'm talking about medical profession, whether it be internists, etc. Focus on the cure as opposed to the prevention.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty well documented reality of our medical system. And it's not just our medical system, it's across the board, in that we have trained up the science of medicine to be reactionary.
Right.
We react to the disease that we see as opposed to understanding the disease and where it comes from and then getting down here and preventing it.
So defensive versus offensive,
Yeah.
for lack of a better term.
And in large part, it's because there's no great system in place to
Reward prevention.
Yeah, I guess
I would
reward
argue
is
There's
reward
no
is
economic
probably-
benefit to a physician to prevent disease or need for surgical intervention.
right. And then you get into the situation where, again, we use orthopedics as an example. We have these numbers may not be exactly correct, but they're going to be close. I think we have like 23,500 orthopedic surgeons in the country. We need, just to handle the population needs today, we need about 29,000.
Okay.
Wow.
So let's think about an orthopedic surgeon doing, let's say a really busy orthopedic surgeon does 1,000 cases a year.
1,000 procedures.
Yeah,
Okay.
1,000 surgeries a year. You multiply that by 5,000 orthopedists short. So that's something like 5 million
5
orthopedic
million
surgeons or
procedures.
surgeries that aren't getting done
Wow.
because we have a manpower shortage.
Okay.
So we don't have time to deal with preventing anything. We're
But
just
that's not
trying
your
to.
job. Your job is to fix.
I get it, but
But
it's still
They
the
come
point
to you
is,
to get that,
yeah,
that result.
yeah, that's just orthopedics. You look at primary care; it's even worse than that. So,
Wow.
I understand why it is the way that it is. It's not for lack of people wanting to address it correctly, but they've just got so much on their plate they can't do.
They're backed up.
I was interested to hear our Director of Health and Human Services come out and say some of the shocking numbers about diabetes and also our chronic diseases and the statistics on what's happened basically in our lifetime over the last 50, 60 years. And it's staggering how much of an increase and how large a percentage of our population has those diseases.
Yeah, the reality that it's almost there's different curves, right? But when you go obesity, you go hypertension, you go coronary artery disease, they all kind of follow that same curve. And then there's another population of people that are like this, that on their own have figured out, I got to be healthier in my lifestyle.
Right.
And they're intervening in their own lives, not because they're necessarily being instructed correctly. They're figuring it out. They're figuring it out that, I don't, if I put too many calories in, this is what happens.
Yes. I pack on the LBs.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty acute in the Midwest too, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Mississippi is still the worst in the United States for obesity, but it's definitely getting worse here in the Midwest. But it really is across the country. It's a national trend, but Nebraska, we're not shy on our calories.
So do you think some of the debate going on in D.C. right now with the Secretary Kennedy, do you think there is merit to the pathway he is going? For example, the ultra processed foods, the example you gave of the truck driver, the excessive sugar and caloric intake attendant to consuming so much pop. This goes back to Dave's comment when we were little kids. I remember Coca-Cola came in a bottle. It's a glass bottle. It was either 6 or 7 ounces.
Yeah.
And you got one, and that was maybe per month. That was it.
Yeah.
Now it's ubiquitous. And you go into a drive up, don't you want to supersize that?
Right.
Which I think there was
32 ounce
that,
or
32,
44.
44. Better get a larger fry, but go ahead and have Diet Coke because that'll offset your caloric intake from your large fries. But it still comes down to personal choice. And we are America. We are the land of bounty. We have plenty. You can walk into the grocery store, taking COVID out of it, and you have aisles full of what our parents would have told us was junk food: chips, popcorn, snackies, cheesy poofs, and snacky cakes. It's everywhere. I happen to know someone that does anesthesia for your group mentioned a patient a while ago showed up and has to be NPO, meaning no food for 12 hours prior to a procedure.
Yeah.
Showed up with her own backpack of snacks, post-op with her snacks, and it was every ultra-processed food item you can imagine: a bag of Fritos, a bag of nacho-flavored Doritos, extra spicy, and there was something else in there. There was some chocolate deal, and there was Dave, what were those things we talked about? The little honey buns. I mean, it was quite a food selection. Almost all of it could have lived on a shelf for centuries and still been edible because of so many preservatives. It comes back to your earlier comment. It's personal choice. You actually made a comment to me years ago. You probably don't even remember it, but you basically said how you enter your 60s defines how you are going to end the last third of your life. Do you want to be obese? Do you want to have all these challenges, or do you want to take some self-control, back it down so that you enter at age 60 as healthy as you can be, and that will help you, regardless of how long you live, have a better quality of life.
That was pretty profound. I don't remember saying it, but
well, I'm giving you all credit because I've embraced it. But and that's so I want to switch gears for a second. I want to come back to the economics, and I'll leave that on the table.
Okay.
In the few years that you've been practicing, because you're so young compared to me, what has changed? Do you think most in orthopedic surgery in the U.S.? Is it how quickly you can do a total joint replacement, recovery, better preparation for it, better post-op?
Yeah. So,
or is there something else that you would say this has been a quantum shift from when you were going through training to where it's at now?
Yeah, I would say you would only see this if you're in it. It's volume. That's the quantum shift.
What?
Is volume.
Really?
Oh, so it's not the
So give me an
technology.
example. You described a thousand procedures
right, that you do
when
as a
you
busy
started
guy.
30 years ago or whenever that was. What was a big number, maximum number of procedures that you and your peers did?
Oh, a maximum, break it down by week.
Yeah.
A really busy guy was doing maybe 20 a week. A typical number for a busy guy in Lincoln, Nebraska was maybe 12.
Okay.
Wow. So
in 50 weeks, that's 600 in a year.
Yeah.
So it's almost doubled.
It has. And it's the amount of pressure that there is to continue to pound that out that comes just from the reality of taking care of this, this mass of people. I don't think that the younger guys in my group really have any concept of that. So like when I started, we didn't start a clinic until 9 o'clock in the morning, and we'd run from 9 to 12. And then we would run from, an afternoon clinic would run from, 1:30 to maybe 4. I have every day of my week that I'm working, I start at least by 7 in the morning. It's just completely changed.
How many days do you operate?
4 days.
4 days. You operate 4 days.
Yeah, 4 separate times. So afternoons on one day in clinic, and the other part of the day or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's the most common surgeries that you do? Like, is it knees? Because it seems like there's so many knee issues and sports. There's so many ACLs, Achilles.
Yeah. If you'd asked me today in clinic, I'd have told you ACLs.
Really?
It just has been this onslaught of ACLs for the last week.
Wow.
And it times out with the with the sports activities.
Fall sports starting up. Yeah.
But as a sports medicine guy, as you get older, your population grows with you, or ages with you, I should say.
Yeah.
And so I probably actually do more total knees than I do ACLs. Well, no question, I do more total knees than I do ACLs.
Mm-hmm.
But used to be scope. So and now it's more total knees.
So there's so many like ACL injuries and Achilles injuries. Why do you think that that's happening so much more now? Like, is it because there's so much like processed food? Could that have any effect or?
That's an interesting
Good
question. My perspective would be that there probably is not that many more ACL tears, but I think we diagnose them much better.
Mm-hmm.
So when any of us were, in school,
Yeah.
you tore your ACL, you got a brace on for 6-8 weeks. Maybe you lost your football season, then you would tape it up and go play in basketball,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And, coach, my knee gave out. Yeah, well, fine. Go and get out there, And that's just how it
Well, away
was.
from your heart, right?
Right.
Yeah. So we amongst the guys that do sports medicine, we've talked a lot of times about the reality that as the population grows, in terms of total numbers, the total numbers of ACLs, for instance, in Lincoln would grow, but the actual percentage numbers, I'm not so sure that they're growing that much more.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. You
It's
just have a
interesting.
bigger population. So
Yeah.
it's growing the number. You went from 600 to 1,000 cases a year just to keep up with the demand.
Yeah, and your population also shifted in terms of participation because, not everybody, when we were growing up, not everybody had the opportunity to play sports.
Right. Yeah.
We had to go to work.
Yeah.
All of us probably worked.
Yeah.
And they didn't have the youth
specialization.
sports like we did.
No,
There's
not
no
like
like
that.
club
If you played
sports.
little chief baseball and midget football, call it good.
Yeah. And little fry basketball.
Yeah,
You
little
bet.
fry basketball.
Now you
They
have
ran
to
around
do
in the
club.
yard.
If
And
you
it
don't
was,
do club
six-
now, you
6 or 8 week seasons.
yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
So, those are some of the things I think has changed. Now, interesting, you were bringing up kind of ligament and tendon injuries.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that that I've also seen in the course of my career that people don't really want to talk about very much, but that is that the advent of the male hormone testosterone being used just, so commonly.
And younger people too.
Yeah.
in
Where
Progressively younger.
testosterone used to, it would decrease as you age, but young people
Yeah,
in their 30s,
Yeah.
where you
they're
think
having-
you're at the
they're
height
having
of your
testosterone
production.
absolutely.
Why is that?
Well, of course, the why is because of the good things that testosterone does.
Right.
Yeah, your body makeup is so much easier to maintain. When
But
you're on testosterone.
have we always had that decline when we were in our 30s?
Nobody knows. Nobody knows the answer to that because, so I'm going to go back for a second and talk about what I've seen on in orthopedics with the testosterone. And that is the reality that people tear their ligaments and their tendons more frequently because of their increased muscle mass.
Right.
And so,
And the stress they might put on
Absolutely.
the weight bearing
Absolutely.
exercises.
So when I went through my residency program at Kentucky, we had a busy sports medicine program, busy orthopedic program. I saw a grand total in 5 years of one distal biceps rupture
Oh,
in 5 years.
One.
Yeah. I'll see 2 a month now
wow.
in my own practice.
Jeez.
And I don't know how many,
Can you
my other
categorize
partners
the
do.
age? Are these younger people, older people?
They're
Older
all, with distal biceps rupture, they're almost all going to be 35 to 55.
So they're just lifting heavy. And that's
They're-
because of the
they're lifting
testosterone.
heavy. They're able to do things like reach over this table and pick up something very large, because they've got that strength.
That strength.
Has that strength?
And if they lose control of it, boom, like that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Now,
Sounds painful.
yeah, so rotator cuff tears, Achilles tendon tears, patella tendon tears. Those are all things that we've seen associated with that use. And it's something that very few people get advised about when they're given a testosterone replacement.
Hmm.
Wow.
It is. So that's one thing. Now, the other issue with the testosterone is that everything depends on what normal lab values are. Well, in the 1970s, let's say, I don't know the history of the testosterone labs that well, but we used a representative sample of people,
Okay.
age 30 to 40. We'll pick 100 people, we'll get their testosterone level, and the range for 30 to 40-year-olds is this to this. And then the 60 to 70-year-olds is this to this. And, so a curve was established of what normalcy is. We really don't know what normalcy is with testosterone. We don't know how fast it's supposed to go down or not go down.
Because nobody
We
tested
don't have the
back
data
then.
for it.
Right.
I never got to,
Yeah.
that wasn't part of your blood makeup.
No,
Exactly.
30, 40 years ago.
Exactly.
Even 20 years
Testosterone
ago.
wasn't even a.
Well, even today, unless you ask for it, you're probably not getting
Right.
it.
Right.
Wow, that took a very different turn. So
Sorry.
I'm going to give you the same. So I got to say, this whole deal this week and last week with Charlie Kirk, it's really been bothering me at a lot of levels. Not the least of which is, one way or the other, it is going to, under the lens of history, prove to be a seminal moment, I think, in American history. But it begs the question, which direction is it going to go? Because it's probably going to be either really good or it's going to be really bad. What's your take?
I pray for revival. I absolutely pray for revival.
What revival in what sense?
Well, Charlie Kirk is an outspoken Christian.
Yes.
And I think one of his greatest strengths was just that he could maintain his Christianity and engage the culture and do it in a way that, if you watch what he was doing, was really very loving to the people that he was discussing it with. And so when you say, in what way do I pray for revival? I pray for Christian revival. Absolutely do. Where it would become mainstream to talk about our faiths and not a Charlie Kirk.
Right.
Not just that's the only guy who's talking about it.
Yeah.
Where our college campuses would be filled with, discussion that's real discussion about, your faith life and how does that interact with science, for instance.
Yeah.
Instead of
I'll tell you a quick-
demonization of all the above,
Yeah.
which is what we think happens now, and actually does happen on a lot of campuses.
It can. It
Yes.
absolutely can. I'll tell you just a real quick side story. About 20 years ago, maybe not quite that long, I was in Africa as part of a archaeological dig. And one of my boys, Michael, was 12 years old. He went with me. And the leader of our dig was a gal by the name of Peg Leakey, Margaret Leakey. Well, Margaret Leakey is the granddaughter of Robert Leakey, who was the guy that came up with the whole evolution out of the Rift Valley in Kenya.
Right.
Okay.
Lucy, the fossil Lucy. So to me, Margaret Leakey was a true scientist in that we sat around the campfire at night and, we're out in the middle of nowhere, Kenya, and we're talking about, the origins of man. And I could discuss with her as clearly about evolution from her perspective and listen to that and receive that. And she could receive my thoughts about creation. And she accepted those thoughts and she would, banter them back and forth. And we just had discussion.
So you agreed to disagree,
We did, yeah, we agreed to disagree. And
which is an
And
art form.
Which it's an art form, but even agreeing to disagree, that's a connection.
But
That is a connection.
But
Yeah.
that is part and parcel of good science.
Correct.
If you are dogmatic in science, you're in trouble. In my
Yes.
opinion.
You aren't open to new ideas or new discoveries or new theories.
Well, the other thing I'm going to point out, when I listen to you describe that interaction with Dr. Leakey, the thing I am impressed, it is clear you respect her, even though you had different views of the same element of the development of humanity. I appreciate the fact that you respect her. I have to anticipate she respects you. And I think that's really the magic of this Charlie Kirk thing. He could bridge
Yes.
the chasm that has been growing in this country. You are either on board with evolution or you are on board with creation, and there can be no middle ground, which, like you, I don't agree with. Charlie Kirk really was masterful, and it's why his assassination troubles me even several days after the fact. I find it more troubling now even than when we first were hearing about it. Our last episode, Sam was talking about the campus reaction.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add on the update, Sam?
Yeah, well, there is something, but first I want to say, like, I'd be interested to see what, like, church attendance was like this weekend following like that. Because I had heard that, like, I'd heard, like, stories about how a lot of people had turned to Christianity and stuff because of how Charlie Kirk, like, the whole thing. And
He impacted them.
oh, yeah. Because I think that's just going so under the cover, or just so under the table about his death. Like, it's all about the politics, but it's more about Christianity. Christianity is the number one thing.
His core belief system was based on his Christianity.
Yeah.
And he never wavered.
There was a video of him saying, I want to be, like, someone asked him in a podcast, how do you want to be remembered as? And the one thing he said was his faith.
Yeah.
But, so going back to UNL, there actually is, like, a Turning Point USA thing, and there's going to be a visual tomorrow at UNL at the Union. So that'll be interesting to see if it's.
Are you going to attend?
I probably
In
will.
unison?
I was thinking about just, like, this is terrible to think about, but just, like, the safety of it, just because of what's happened.
You know,
So,
you'd
be a fool not to think about
yeah,
it.
so that's the
I
thing keeping
understand
me
that.
back.
Selfishly, I think Matt and I'd like to have boots on the ground to see what the visual looks like, what it feels
Yeah.
like, how it's
Yeah.
attended, if there's any interference by obstructionists.
Yeah.
I'm just interested in all that. I'm sure it will get reported on.
Yeah.
But I'd like to talk to somebody who's there.
It'll be interesting to see if it's, like, more of a political thing or more of, like, a prayer and just, like, quiet thing. I don't know.
Wouldn't you assume it would be more of a Christian prayer?
I would think so.
with Turning Point.
With
Yeah.
Turning Point,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that's a
if
reasonable
they do it, if
expectation.
they put it on, I would think that would be the.
I'd hope so, yeah.
Yeah.
But
You know,
I
from
don't
a
know.
political perspective, I felt after the assassination, I felt exactly the same as I did on 9/11.
Yes.
I felt exactly the same.
Ironic that we're reporting on it basically the same day.
Yeah,
The same
yeah,
day.
In unison.
And it was an
And-
affront.
It,
Yeah.
You
was,
felt violated, I assume.
well, that, and it is the most dramatic, since 9/11, in my opinion, the most dramatic event about taking away American freedom.
Yeah,
I would
You know,
agree.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
100% correct, yeah.
That's a
9/11
good
was
perspective.
9/11 was that way. And,
You almost
and
felt
silencing
shallow.
Charlie was that way.
It's just kind of a shallow feeling. You know, a lot of us aren't touched by a lot of that thing. We're observers, we're participants, but it's kind of a distance to us in many instances because we're so far removed.
Correct.
I assume none of us here know Charlie Kirk personally. We only know him through
Supposed
his
to.
media presence.
But yeah.
Yeah, right. So it's like you know them, but at the same time, it's this as Matt would say, a profound loss that we don't have this voice, we don't have that reason, we don't have that debate, that format. I'm hopeful, and we touched on this our last episode. Who carries that mantle?
Yeah.
And-
Who's going
and-
to carry that torch forward?
In Charlie's memory, I would hope that Turning Point does have someone or a body of people or a collection of individuals who will carry that message to campuses forward as we
Yeah.
keep growing, his message.
I'm curious, did any of you guys hear or see Erica Kirk speak on Friday night?
I
I
did.
did not.
Yeah.
That was,
I just saw the very end
I
of it.
saw it, but yeah, I didn't watch it in full, but I need to go back and watch, but yeah.
She was
She
very
was talking
strong.
about it. She was talking about, like, continuing on Turning Point and all that.
Well,
You know, it's
hopeful
interesting.
it does.
I think Charlie is a once in a generational person, and it's fascinating. It troubles me at a lot of levels, like I was saying earlier, that a voice like that, a talent like that, a gift to humanity like that has been so quickly and easily extinguished. And what I find fascinating, and this is a little political and it's not PC and anymore, I don't care. is you look at it, there were no riots. There were no
Right.
multi-day, let's go burn buildings, let's engage in hooliganism. It was very peaceful. It was very prayerful. It was very faithful. And the thing I really appreciate when you look at some of the images, there was no regard to what I will call tribalism.
Right.
There
Right.
weren't discrete groups of different tribes, whether it was black or white or Asian. It was a cross section of American humanity, all there to mourn the loss of a profound individual.
I think you just described what a progressive reaction versus a conservative reaction.
Correct.
And-
And I'm not, I would say, a Christian
And I'll
reaction.
I'll put politics on that because that's been very apparent over the last number of years with a variety of things that have happened in our country and the distinction between the two sides and their reaction to it and how they react and
Yes.
what they do.
Yeah, I mean, America, when you really step back, Doug just talked about it. This country was founded on Christian values.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know that one gift God gave humanity was also the curse, and that was freedom of choice. You get to choose how you react to these events collectively as Americans, collectively as a world, individually. Dave, you talked about it. All of us can remember getting married. We can remember the birth of our children. We have different events in our lives that we all hold dear, we all remember. But then we have these outliers. And that kind of comes back to some of the things you've seen in the medical profession. I always look back to my grandparents. They saw the advent of, well, one, they saw 2 world wars, which I'm glad I did not live through. But number 2, they saw the Salk vaccine, and it cured a horrible disease. It prevented a horrible disease. We saw the man on the moon. They went from outdoor to indoor plumbing. They saw technological advances that really shock the imagination. And here we sit. I think we have so many technological advances, whether it be the way you conduct a surgery, a total knee, to how we react. But this is going to be a seminal event in American history. And again, I really feel like most of the reaction that I am seeing has been, we want to continue what Charlie Kirk was working to build. And I think you're exactly right. It's a reawakening of America and of its values. And then now it comes down to, all right, if you believe that, then it's individually, it starts at the top. We talk about leadership a lot. You have to lead by example.
But there's a large cross section of the country, Matt, who do not want that to happen.
I totally agree.
That they
And
do.
you are 100%
They
right.
think their assumption is that when you kill the man, you kill the movement. You silence the.
Yes.
You silence that. We hope that that's not the case, and I don't think that's going to be the case. But that's a big sentiment in America that when that voice died, that
The movement died with it.
The movement died with
And
it.
that is the other outcome. And that is the one that really causes me consternation.
Yeah, I think
I have more faith in America than that.
And I would just say I'd have faith in God that there's a reason.
There is.
There's a reason why God called Charlie Kirk home when he did. And just like, I'm not comparing Charlie Kirk to Jesus, but when Jesus died, nobody expected that thing to explode either
No.
into
No.
In
Same thing.
300
They thought
years
they
later.
killed the man. They killed the
exactly.
movement.
Yeah. And the same kind of thing has the potential of happening. I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all in terms of the why. Why would
I think the
it make
mainstream
sense? But yeah, I think it could happen that way.
I agree.
mainstream media has underscored the Christianity message that Charlie has. They've made it all political.
Yes.
And activist.
100%.
They've labeled him a
Yes.
political activist as opposed to a Christian-based
Yeah,
voice.
I was reading a news article today, and I was just reading it. I was trying to get an update, like on the murder, and it said it just hit me. It said right-wing activist.
Right.
When I read it, I was
If you look at almost all the stories that
Yeah.
are published, it will use an adjective to describe Charlie
It's just
in
not,
a activist or political form.
it's not
Yes.
fair to
There-
his life.
without question.
Yeah.
So, what's lost is that his base, to Doug's point, is the Christianity.
Yeah.
That's his base of his message and his belief system,
Mm-hmm.
which went political because of his belief system and
Yeah.
belief in
Yes.
Christianity.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I'll have to give an update on our next episode about what that vigil's like tomorrow night.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
I'll be
to know
really
that.
fascinated to hear.
Yeah.
Sam, that may be the first ever Mod Bless America where you take one of the cameras. You might be the man on the scene.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll be ready for it.
Man on the street, Jimmy
Man
Olsen.
on the
There you
street,
go.
Jimmy Olsen.
Man on the street.
Perfect.
Don't be calling Clark Kent for help.
Yeah.
But that was a tough week.
It's been a tough week.
Yeah.
And like I said, it is a profound loss to America, to the world, to Christianity. It's a good man, and that was a life
Yeah.
extinguished too soon.
Yeah.
And my fear is no regard was given to a newly formed widow, to two young children who'll never
Yeah.
have the experience of knowing their dad.
Yeah.
And again, simply to silence a potential movement that some groups find threatening, we're back to the comment. There's no room in America, in my opinion, for political violence, regardless of which side of the street you're on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Violence in general.
Violence
If
in
it's
general.
political in nature, I mean,
Thank you. I stand corrected.
Yeah. The voice was silenced, like we said last time, but it wasn't shut down. And I think that the movement probably just going to get any stronger, it seems like, from this.
well, that seems to be the collective hope of this group.
Yeah.
I hope it's the
Hopefully
collective
it
hope
takes
of
a
the
good,
nation.
good
Yeah.
turn.
Me too.
Exactly.
Me too.
Well, that's a good place for us to end before I start talking about tomorrow's event for the Federal Reserve and what's going to happen with interest rates. Let's leave it on a positive note and just say thank you, Dr. Tewes, for being here, sharing
Yes.
your wisdom, your experience, and
Appreciate it.
your
Thank
knowledge.
Thank
And
you.
just
Thank
your
you.
time. It was
Yeah.
sure fun to have you. We hope you'll come back.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
God bless America. Thanks for
Thank
being
you.
here.